Hello, it's Peter, and I'm broadcasting from an undisclosed location in my library. I'm going to start our April Fool's version of P&K Q&A. Where's that? Oh, battery. Tells my battery status now. That's cool. Okay. Crow's coming up. All right, let's try it again. Said no answer from live video guest. Crow, hit join again if you want. I'll see if we can. Okay, so I invited. Let's see. Send an invite. Okay, not sure what's going on. Let me ask it. Do you still see an option to join, question mark? Try it again if you do. Maybe check your permissions on your phone that you're using. So that's light, dark. Yes, okay. There we go. See ya. Guest request, approve that.
Holy crap.
There we go.
That was annoying.
Yeah. And the split screen. I'm going to have to move for the split screen. I can see why it cuts you off sometimes. It's cutting me off. Give me a minute. Oh.
There.
Wow. All right. Okay, there we go. Move that up there, there, and good grief. Okay. Okay. Okay, got it.
And I've got my Guy Fawkes mask.
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
That works. Awesome.
Yeah. First
okay,
revolutionary.
Well, welcome to P&K Q&A for April the 3rd, but we're doing the April Fool's Day version because we can.
Yeah. You should come more to the you need to come more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it cutting me off on the feed, on your feed?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, how's that?
Yeah, there, now you're about center of the screen.
Awesome. Okay, I can see like one side of my face, but if you can see my whole face, that's great.
Yeah, because I don't know. Maybe
Perfect.
if I'm seeing
Perfect.
what everybody else is seeing.
Well, I think you are. I'm seeing all your face right now where you are.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah. All right. So let's see. We'll do the. Guess we'll start with the prayer before we get too far down the road.
Yes, let's start. Let's start there. Um, did you want to go this week, Ken?
I can do it. Yeah, I think it's my turn.
Okay, so you go ahead.
Heavenly Father, bless the residents, the council, and the reeve of this rural municipality. Bless the residents, councils, and mayors of the villages in this rural municipality. Bless the residents, council, and mayor of the capital city of this province. Bless the MLAs and the premier of this province. Bless the people of this province. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Bless the MPs and the Prime Minister of Canada, and also please bless the people of Canada. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Bless the Congress, Supreme Court, and President of the United States. Also please bless the people of the United States. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Father, bless all the leaders of the countries of the world. And finally, please bless all the people of the world. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Amen.
Amen. So, how was your week?
Oh, busy. Getting farm stuff ready.
I know, and it's only the 1st of April. That must be a little strange for you.
A little bit, yeah. It went from winter to spring.
And in an amazingly short period of time. It's like,
yep.
If you don't live here, this is like 1st of April, and you're thinking about getting out into the field. No, I mean, if you're already walking out on the field and you know the tractor isn't going to sink, what's stopping you from starting?
Yeah.
And I've been looking at the news or the weather forecast ahead. It's just getting warmer from here on out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything in the Farmer's Almanac about this?
I don't know. I haven't actually looked. I don't know if we've got one around here. We've have to see. I guess they have it online. I don't know. We don't like to start too early because sometimes it does go back to, a little frost or something, but we usually start between the 5th and the 15th of May. That seems to work good.
Wow.
So about a month from now is when we plan to start.
But if you walked out into the fields now...
Oh, we could go tomorrow.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucked. But you don't want to because nobody wants to take that gamble. But the thing is that if you did take the gamble, you could probably pull 2 crops in one season.
Well, I don't know about that, but the neighbors they planted their peas about this time of year, the 1st of April, and the peas stayed in the ground until the 1st of May. They didn't germinate for a month. The soil temperature was not warm enough. That's because we've got this. It's a low temperature. It's like a meat thermometer, but it's a low temperature. It goes from like 1 to 100 degrees, or minus 20 to 100 degrees or something, and you stick it in the ground, say 4 inches, wherever you want to plant your seed, and then you wait a few minutes and see what it says. And it takes just a little while for the soil to warm up down there,
Okay.
especially if you have residue on top, like a lot of the direct seeding guys do.
Mm. Okay. So, but I don't know. Just seems to me that if it's only getting warmer from here on out, the temperature of the soil is probably going to rise rather quickly.
Yeah,
Especially, yeah.
we'll be checking it out in the next few days, see what it is.
Oh, what you will. Nice.
Yeah, I've got a thermometer. I'm going to walk out probably sometime next week. I'll
Mhm.
stick it in various fields and see what it says.
Yeah. No, because you are right. Temperature has everything to do with it. And the seeds aren't going to do shit until they hit the right temperature. Just like the buds on
Yeah.
a tree. They ain't going to do shit until the temperature is just right. And then,
Yeah, that's the other thing we watch is when the trees start getting leaves on them. We don't want to go too much before that either, because there's not
mm,
really much point.
no, there wouldn't be. But that leads me to a curiosity because one of the signs that Kim Kalamet gave in his prophecy was an early spring.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is got to be the earliest spring that in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen anything like this before. I mean, the weather we got in March, I would expect at the 1st of April, not at the 1st of March. And the last snowstorm that we got, that would be atypical of what we would get around the end of April. And we got that at the end of March. And I was sort of half expecting it because my birthday is at the end of April and it always snows around my birthday, either the day before, on the day, or the day after.
Okay.
And I was keeping an eye on the calendar and I was like, it would be fucked if it snowed around the end of May. And it did. We had that big
Mm-hmm.
snowstorm, and just like it would at the end of April, it was gone in a day and a half. There was no sign of it. I mean, I went out to work on the second day after that storm, and I did a little bit of shoveling and went to work. I came back. I didn't get home until after 6 o'clock, but by the time I got home, I didn't have my jacket on anymore. I took off my sweater and I walked up my walk, and there wasn't a lick of snow anywheres. There was still a little bit in the backyard because the sun doesn't hit there hard all day, but it hits the front yard. My whole street, it didn't even. You wouldn't even know that a storm had came through there 2 days earlier with 100-kilometer-hour winds. And I was just like, that's so fucked. So yeah, March has been fucked for weather. And yeah, so there's been like this week, there's been a lot of, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word. Um, well, I guess straight up, they were attacking the prophets this week, is what a lot of the sock puppet alt media were doing. And so they were saying that, none of these prophets were correct. But I was like, now listen, I was like, if you listen to the prophecies and you just took out all the personality bullshit, which all prophets are guilty of, because, I mean, it's just the way that you see things. It's difficult for your personality not to enter the equation.
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, when you're seeing events unfold in the future, you're not watching a movie per se. What you're actually seeing are potentials, but there's like a certain vibration and you're drawn to certain potentials in the future. And so you can go, but you're not even looking. It's still not like a movie. It's like shadows moving across the screen. It's more, at least for me, it's about emotion. It's about what those emotions and then translating those emotions into words, which is not easy. Not even a little bit. I mean, it's amazing to watch it all unfold, but then to try to translate all that emotion, uh, yeah, it's hard. So something gets lost, and plus you have to almost, your own personality ends up coming into it, and you're going to relate it to everything that you have learned and experienced over your life.
Yep.
It's the only way that it works. This is why primitive man had a certain view of spiritual things, which is very different from a more modernistic view of spiritual things that we have today, because we know more than they do. It's as simple as that.
I've always found it fascinating, I guess, how seers and prophets and people like Ram Dass and just everybody, with rare exceptions, they have all this knowledge and it 90% plus checks out, but their personality and their biases and their paranoia, their personality bleeds onto it to some extent most of the time, and it's it's just something to be aware of, and it's interesting to observe.
Nostradamus is probably the most guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a seer, but look at the time that he lived in, surrounded by death. So when he looked into the bowl and looked into the future, he seen the potential for man's destruction. But that was all influenced because of what he lived through. Now, some of his later prophecies, when things, when the plague was like over, then he had a, he did write that there was a golden path for mankind into the future of light and life. And this was the path that he said man could choose, but there we would come to a precipice to where this choosing would have to happen. And I think that uh, this choosing began with World War II
Mm-hmm.
and went all the way up through the 20th century. And we are now living in the final days of this war that got paused through the late 80s and 90s, but then came back with a vengeance in the early oddies with the destruction of the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I mean, what people really don't understand is that that was really a shot over the bow, is what that was. It was only the beginning of what they wanted to do. The only thing is that we got to live our lives over here in the West while people over in the Middle East lived the nightmare. I mean, it's another part of the world, but it's still part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is part of our reality. So you got to take that into consideration. That just because nothing bad was happening to you over here doesn't mean that nothing bad wasn't happening somewhere else in the world. So I guess this is why we need a more fair and just system,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can avoid these things. But Evil doesn't want it that way. And have they ever been working overtime this week to catch up on shit? And it's just crazy, the lengths that they are going to. And the amount of money that is being fucking laundered right now is scandalous. Like, doesn't anybody watch like how much money Ottawa is just giving away in the last 2 weeks? What do you think? That's all slush fund money, is what that is. And shit, right now, Congress is paying like $400 a night or hotels for illegal immigrants. I mean, how many people working their ass off every day make $400 a day? I mean, most of us, like, if we make $100 a day, we're just like, it was a good fucking day. But yeah, so they're just giving money away left, right, and center.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't even begun to see the logistical nightmare begin to unfold from what happened in the Suez Canal.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even begun to see that. Did
Yeah, I
you?
was just thinking. What? No, go ahead, please.
Mm, did we talk about that last week? The Suez Canal?
The Suez Canal. Yeah, there's a container ship crosswise blocking the canal.
Mm,
I don't know if what's they've done with it yet, but
well,
must be stuck good because you'd think some tugs could kind of pull it around, but I don't know. Got to unload it first, maybe.
well, that's just it. I think they're trying to avoid unloading it. So actually, there's two narratives right now circulating on the internet. You've got the mainstream narrative, which says that the ship is free and is on its way, and then, but yet there are reports coming in from boots on the ground that this ship is still stuck
Mm-hmm.
and it ain't going nowheres yet. So it's like, well, who's telling the truth? It's like, wow. I was like, this shit's getting really confusing, really bad. I was like, man, and Google won't let you see what's going on in the canal.
Mm.
Like, yeah, you can't even go in on Google Maps if you have a if you pay for the premium version. But apparently, you can't even zoom in on the Suez Canal to see if that ship is still there. So you got all of these oddities floating around. And then, of course, there's news stories saying that, the Navy has saved all these children and all this human I mean, no doubt that's exactly what's on that ship. But, is this really happening?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if so, why isn't it on CNN? Right? And apparently you got American Navy on one side and Russian Navy on the other. So it's like, I don't know. If you're trying to hide something, then I mean, the Russians typically haven't been known to hide other people's laundry for them. They're
Yeah, I
generally,
was going to ask how's the relations between you said there's the Russian Navy and the U.S. Navy. How have you had any reports of what the relationship between them together is at that location at this time? Are they working together? They're just sitting there looking at things, or what?
this might actually surprise people, but the Russian Navy and the American Navy have always gotten along splendidly.
Okay.
I mean, even during the Cold War, The Navy captains from both sides were generally quite friendly and familiar with each other.
Okay.
Yeah. And the crews were always switching it up. Sometimes they'd use it as a media blitz and be like, oh, Russian and American crews, exchange, blah, blah, bullshit. But it was happening all the time. They were constantly in joint operations, even up through the Cold War. And when the Americans actually did invade and launch, a lot of people don't know this one either. In northeastern Russia, America and the American military actually did invade Russia and killed a couple of dozen Russian soldiers. It was during the Cold War when this took place. And of course, Russia took back their territory, but in order to save embarrassment and to save any embarrassment or what have you, both the Russian and the American governments agreed not to report on it. And so it stayed under the radar. I can only imagine that the Americans attacked because there was something going on in this particular area of Russia that they did not like. And I can only imagine what it is. So, yeah, it wasn't done on a whim, obviously. So there's stuff like that that happens all the time. And I imagine that whatever the agreement was, and whoever was going to suffer the most, because I mean, if the Americans invaded on a whim, then that kind of puts Russia in the position of dominance. But if the Americans went in and destroyed something that the Russians shouldn't have been working on anyways, and it violated international law, then that puts the Americans in the upper position for negotiations. So, other than those details of soldiers losing their lives, there's really not much else that you can read about that incident other than saying that it happened.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm.
I was just thinking with all the stuff that's happening in, let's call it the end game of what's going on, when this is all over, reading a crystal ball is going to be a cinch.
The thing is that what we'll learn when this is all over is that there will be no need for crystal balls.
Right.
Because we're in control of our own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
With every decision that we make. We're on Neo's journey, essentially. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people will sit around waiting for their destiny, not realizing that their destiny is in their own hands. And all they have to choose is to go
out and make it, or don't even go out, but decide to choose it.
Yeah.
Again, from Kevin Trudeau, your wish is your command.
And this
the
is
choice,
what I mean.
Was it success is the decision away? Said something like that, I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean by Neo's journey, is that he came to the realization that no matter what decision he made, it was his decision. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what all these other players were doing in his reality, he ultimately was responsible for his own decisions. And once that realization set in, it freed his mind to start making decisions. And when he decided that he wasn't going to be like fucking controlled by their bullshit, then all their bullshit meant nothing. It was just numbers on a screen after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be clear, you're talking about Neo in the Matrix, right?
Yeah. Well, we're in the
That's what I
21st
figured.
century. That's almost that's the go-to
That's 20
tome.
years ago.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
still the go-to tome for
Hmm.
the hero's journey.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That
Yeah.
movie, I watched that movie not in the theater, but somebody had it on video or something, or it was on TV. Um, that was really something for its day. It was um, yeah, it was
Well,
one of those quantum leap type things.
you not
And
only
the
in not only in visual effects, but also in storytelling.
yes, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it was like, yeah, it's still, you can still watch it today and just be like, wow, it still
Hmm.
applies. And that's what makes for an enduring movie, is that you can watch it and just be like, you know what? That still applies today. You can watch that movie 100 years from now and it still applies. I mean, that's that's what truth does. Truth truth doesn't have to change to suit a narrative. It's always going to be the same. It's just a matter of accepting it. And that onus of acceptance is on the individual. So, yeah, interesting how everything can always come back around.
Hmm.
So we have that going on this week against the prophets. Oh, the other thing they were saying, oh, the prophets were wrong. They said Trump was going to be the next president. Eh, not exactly. They said Trump was going to win the election. Everybody just assumed he was going to be president, which, quite frankly, would be a natural assumption, except if we weren't living in extraordinary times, where it's like, yeah, it's like people don't get it. It's when you play a game of chess, and it's really, yeah, you got. Do you go after the back line first, or do you work on the pawns? And once you've gotten enough pawns out of the way, then you start working on the back line, grabbing a knight, grabbing a bishop, grabbing a rook. That's how you win the game of chess. Well, people think there is nothing going on. There is tons of shit going on right now. And all the pawns are being rounded up. And there's a lot of them. There are a shit ton of pawns that have to be rounded up, probably numbering in the millions. And right now, you know, I don't even think, I mean, maybe a million have been arrested by now and convicted. I know that there's been a lot of them. And it's, and that's worldwide, not just in America. And so all of these pawns are getting rounded up. Now, the thing is that this is how you destroy a huge network, because the people at the top of the pyramid, they don't get their hands dirty. They have other people do their dirty work for them. And it goes all the way down to the line until finally, you're on the street level looking for that homeless bum to do a B&E for you so that you can, steal or stage something so you can use it to blackmail somebody later. This is how shit works.
Hmm.
So you start getting rid of all these pawns, then that means that the higher ups have got to go do this shit themselves. Well, here's the thing about management. And anybody and I'm sure most people are aware of this, especially in government, management, they're morons and slightly insane because they don't change their habits. They do the same thing over and over and over again. And soon, I mean, when they run out of idiots that they can assign duties to, then it's left up to them because they've got to report to somebody above them to go and do the job. And then they're going to go and do the job and they're going to fuck it up. And then the more fuck ups that you start having, the more shit starts sliding. And once shit gets sliding, there's no stopping it. And Q has told us that. It's like, once this fucking train gets rolling, that's it. There's no stopping it because it's just going to keep going and it's going to railroad every. Michael knows what he's doing. I mean, this has to have to get momentum. And the best way to get momentum is you just ramp it up slowly. And then once you get it ramped up and once it gets going, you can take your foot off the gas and it's going to fucking go all on its own and there will be nothing that is going to stop it. Nothing. Q said that 1,000 times. Nothing can stop what's coming. The only thing is that people keep thinking that he's talking about near future. It's out there. And it all has to come together organically. This is why there's no dates on anything. This is why prophets can't give you a date. And any prophet that does, well, should be a little slapped. I mean, I get a feeling that something is going to happen in and around a certain period of time, but that could also be me putting my own personality into it. Because I've seen things unfold that I've said were going to happen, and then it ends up happening 6 months later than what I thought it was. So, which makes it kind of like, well, am I only guessing and it was inevitable to begin with? Or you just can't see time when you're looking at the potential of the universe.
The way I'm looking at it is, I know that a ton of stuff is going to happen or be revealed or something sometime between tomorrow and 2024, 25, something like that. I keep remembering the Q drop that Q said done in 30. Well, is it 30 minutes, 30 days, 30 weeks, 30 months was one of the things that, well, a lot can happen in 30 months. And 30 months from when?
Yeah.
Is it from the drop or from when a certain event begins? It's 30 months from then.
Yeah, which is kind of annoying, but the thing is that it will all make sense in hindsight. It always does.
Yes.
And it kind of pisses you off. But
yep.
What? Where did that thought go? God damn it. Oh.
Things will make sense in hindsight, or things will come together organically and sometime between tomorrow and 5 years from now. Or what thought were you working on?
We're working. Oh, damn it. It's gone. Hopefully it'll come back. But it was something that actually went way off somewhere else. I think it was more about, I think it might have been about prophecy, but still. But yeah, we're still on this line of prophecy, and we're trying to stay on it. And so they say that, and now also Kim Clement said something about two presidents. It was going to confuse the people. Again, people are making the assumption that he's talking about Trump and Biden. And it's like, and I think that the enemy does this to confuse. But I try to look at things like, just take it for what he's saying and not try to put words in his mouth. You know what I mean? And right now, we're actually starting to see a two-president system. And it's just going to get more confusing. How many times has Biden said President Kamala? And he was like, well, I'll get President Kamala to do that. I know that 3 incidents where he's been caught on camera doing that.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, this is only going to get more and more confusing. And with the mainstream media kind of soft pumping the possibility of Kamala becoming president, it's like, what the fuck? This is going to get real fucking confusing. So I think that when we start to see Kamala Harris start taking up more of Joe's duties, and we get to see less and less of Joe, that is going to start confusing the shit out of everybody. And right now, people need to understand Trump's a kingmaker now. He's actually more powerful now than he was when he was president of the United States. And if you think the military's still not talking to him, they're still talking to him. And so what do you do with that? And everybody, I mean, this is the way it's always worked. This is how kingdoms rise. This is how kingdoms fell. Nations would rise, nations would fall. This is how they rose and fall. They rose and fall on the support of the military. No king can go into battle without the support of his generals, period. And if Trump has the support of the generals in the military, Biden can give all the fucking executive orders that he wants and all the fucking bullshit orders. The media can fucking print all of this stuff that they want to about the military changing its stuff and blah, blah, blah. It ain't really happening. I mean, it's not happening in the Navy, not for a second, because it's just, I mean, definitely not happening on a submarine. They're not going to put up with this woke bullshit on a submarine. You know why they're not going to put up with this woke bullshit on a submarine? Because when you're on a submarine and you're underwater and somebody fucks up, a lot of people are going to get hurt or die. Mm-hmm. And everybody fucking knows this. And if you do not know this and you do not understand this, you do not belong on a submarine. Because, I mean, there are operations going on a submarine in tight quarters all the time that are dangerous. I mean, just the job of changing oxygen candles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a highly, highly dangerous job. I mean, you do that job, you are a little scared when you're doing that job. And if you're not, then you're fucking stupid and you don't belong on a boat, period. And this is so, and then imagine the people in the Army that are doing serious work. And they've got to rely on the guy next to him to make sure that fucking he's got his back. Nah, the stuff that's going on in the military with all this woke bullshit, it's mainly at the administrative level. People that go to work in office buildings. And they will know where they stand when the generals decide to crack down. And they'll remember that they are military personnel when the time comes. Mm-hmm. And the whip is going to be cracked. So that's why I'm not worried about the military. Because this is all administrative bullshit. It's not the fighting people on the ground and the people that are doing the real work. And it's the same way everywhere.
I've got a question from Justin here. He said, or it's a comment, it's called delegation. I think he was maybe talking about, and clarify if you want, but we were talking about the pawns and the middle management or whatever.
Delegating tasks.
The kingpin delegates to his henchmen, and the henchmen delegate to the pawns and the.
Yeah,
I think is maybe, if I'm taking a guess, that that's what you're referring
no,
to.
no, he's
But yeah,
exactly
that's the
right.
thing when chain of command. That's how delegation works. Because one one guy tries to do everything, and he's a middle or high position. You know, he better not get too attached to sleeping.
Mm, yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'm kind of experienced in this in my current reality. I mean, I'm a manager, but
Mm,
I have no subordinates. That
mm,
means anything and everything that is going to get done, it's on me for it to get done. I mean, I have coworkers that help me. And thank fuck they're there. And but so they support my department, and when they see how busy I am, they do help out quite a bit. But in the end, everything only gets done if I either mention it that it needs to get
mm,
done, or or I've got to do it myself. And yeah, it's been a busy week.
mm,
A real busy week. A lot of hours on the road. That's all I can say. And yeah, a lot of distances. But sometimes I don't mind the hours on the road because it does give me a nice chance to decompress. And yeah, easier to pray when my mind is also occupied with driving.
mm,
And because my wheels are spinning all the fucking time. And so usually yeah, most of the time when I'm praying, it's usually conversation anyways between me and God. And sometimes it's a nice conversation and sometimes it's a rough conversation.
mm,
I like this week, the shit that I was like seeing coming, that's out there. I'm just like, man, if you're not fucking angry yet, then I don't know what the fuck's gonna piss you off. Because, yeah, angry gets shit done. And that's all I just keep thinking. I was like, yeah, yeah, man. But I see the plan going forward. But when there's sometimes when I see shit, it's just like these people need to be taken off the planet fast. Like I seen a video and the parents were all for it. Like the baby was wrapped in plastic, like the same kind of plastic that you get flowers wrapped in.
mm,
And I was just shaking my
mm,
fucking head. I'm like, oh my God, that is the baby's first touch in life between plastic. I was like, wow, wow, that's fucked. And the parents were fucking all for it. I mean, still, he had like all the fucking guck from just coming out,
mm,
and they picked the baby up with cold plastic. It's no wonder fucking we're all traumatized at birth. It really isn't. I mean, we go from a nice warm womb out to well, what would essentially be freezing cold. I mean, you ever step out of
mm,
a hot tub? Same fucking thing a baby's going through,
mm,
except they don't understand what the fuck just happened. So, I mean, their whole nervous system is reacting to that craziness, that extreme temperature shift. If you don't think that has an effect on a person's psyche, a person's mind, it's like, think about a bad injury you might have had. And, you still get a shiver up your spine when you think about it. And
mm,
sometimes you might think to yourself, that could have been a whole lot worse.
mm,
And I, you want my advice? Anytime you girls are having a baby, research water
mm.
babies. Just
Water birth.
research
Mm,
that. That is got to be the best way to give birth. I mean, you're in warm water. They put some Epsom salt in there, and it's like stretching, making your skin more elastic so that, the birthing canal, spits that head out, and the baby's coming out into warm, lukewarm water. So the temperature change is slight, but not enough to trigger a shock reaction. And then they just clean the baby off and then slowly bring them up out of the water, wrap them in a warm towel, and the baby's not traumatized as soon as they come out of the womb. And, and we all know, I mean, one thing humans are really good at, we're really good at getting used to stuff. I mean, people can get used to living in a pile of shit. So yeah, humans are really good at that. So the baby will get used to her or his or her new environment quick enough within 24 hours. And then the shock of the whole experience will have worn off by then. And then you have a healthy, well-balanced child that wasn't traumatized as soon as they came into this world. They used to do shit that way a long time ago. And they say that we're advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's more of what. Yeah, that's my advice for having babies. I wish I knew this shit when I was younger,
Mm.
but you know what? There's nothing I can do about that. Time keeps moving forward, and you either move forward with it or you just get left behind. Oh, there's another thing I wanted to say that was hilarious this week. There's a Mandela effect going around, and
Mm.
I've actually experienced this one. And I'm just like, oh, that is so cool. Okay, y'all remember the movie Shazam? It came out, I think, a couple of years ago now. Anyways, I went and watched the movie. I mean, movies are fun. I don't give a fuck. And so I'm watching the movie, and there was this end scene where where all the main characters were sitting around in this throne room. And well, they had went back to where Shazam had gotten his powers, and there was this throne room, and they were all sitting in it. And then they realized that, hey, we have a secret hangout spot that nobody can get to except us because it takes magic to get there. If you watch the movie, you'd know. And anyways, the Mandela effect and this is like straight from the director's mouth. That scene was never in the movie. It was only included as a deleted scene on the CD, but it was never in the movie. And it's just like, wait a second. I seen that scene in the movie. I remember the conversation. I remember the scene. I remember the empty chair because I was like, well, what the fuck? What's the extra chair for? So we knew that we were going to be introduced to a new character at the end of the movie. This is like how most of these superhero movies end. They always end with like that extra scene at the end.
Mm.
And and so I remember watching that. And the only thing I can't remember is whether it was before the credits or after the credits. But I remember watching that scene. And then when the director said that that scene never made it into the movie, it became a curiosity. And it turns out that it's almost 50-50. Some
Mm.
people remember it, some people don't. And it's like, well, what the fuck? I mean, and the director, he's been like, I mean, it's caused a problem for him because a lot of fans are like, no, that was in the movie. And so, I mean, if he's full of shit, he created himself a bit of a nightmare. And if he were
Mm.
to take back his words, well, that would make him very unpopular and a liar. And so it's either the poor bastard is caught in a trap because he trapped himself, or the Mendela effect is real. And whoever remembers that scene at the end of the movie has been riding the same timeline since then. People who don't remember it joined up with our timeline sometime when that movie was released to now. They joined up with our timeline. And I was like, that is so weird. And I don't know. There was a few times this week that I felt really disconnected from everything. But I did kind of chalk it up to being like really, really fucking busy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking it up. Actually, it's Mendela, like Nelson Mandela?
Yes.
Mandela effect, or is it okay? And
because some people remember him.
Okay, yeah. So
some people remember him dying, and some
ahead.
remember him going to jail. I remember him going to jail. Other people who joined our timeline apparently remember him being executed.
My goodness. Okay.
So
I've heard that term a couple of times. I really didn't know what it meant until now. Yeah, but I understand the concept. Yeah, it's this totally happened because I remember it. No, I remember something completely different. It's one of those, this is what happened whether it did or not kind of thing.
But that's what I've been telling people. It's like the timelines are converging, and they're converging very quickly. And until like all the similar timelines are coming together. See, this is how epochs work. And all the similar timelines are going to start converging together. Now, the more timelines that are similar, that begin to come together, the more it solidifies that reality, so that it becomes mute, so that it can never be changed. So this was a recent Mendela effect.
Yeah, that would actually explain a lot.
Yeah, it does explain a lot.
So much.
Yeah, and it explains why. It explains all kinds. Like it explains a lot of supernatural stories, is what it does. And how because I mean there are plenty of stories out there of people that have said that they have ended up in another place, and it was like similar to where they had come from, but it was different somehow. And sometimes it was wildly different, but sometimes it was similar. And then there are even stories on our end of people showing up and not belonging. There's a famous story in Russia about the green children that I think they're either found in a cave or something like that, and they lived with these villagers for like the longest time. And they grew up with them. They learned everything from them, and then one day they just, in their teenage years, I think, they just disappeared, and nobody knew where they went. And it's so, I mean, they appeared mysteriously and they left mysteriously. And they were like, when they first were encountered, they spoke a different language. They had odd habits. They had different clothing on. But then, they learned to speak Russian. They learned everything about that particular culture in that particular village before they disappeared. Sometimes I think they were like, they were sent as observers, and then they ended up being taken back, or maybe their parents were looking for them the whole time, and maybe on their side of reality 5 minutes had passed, while on our side of reality 10 years had passed. Who knows? The universe is wide open to whatever your imagination can conceive. It's like, the only thing is that if you conceive evil or sin, then these are things that the creator doesn't want anything to do with at all. So if you want to entertain those sort of things, then your spiritual potential begins to dwindle very rapidly. If you decide to to act on inequity, well, you've pretty much sealed your own fate, because the Creator will only recognize that which is Himself. This is why only Thinilators end up on paradise from the mortal realms of time and space, because they have a piece of divinity within them that they had fused and became one with, so that when they stand in front of the Creator sees Himself within you. So then He doesn't consume you, because the Creator will consume that which He does not recognize as Himself. This is why everything is related to creation, from start to finish. Why is it like that? Who knows? It's maybe it is a dog eat dog universe outside of the universe. Who the hell knows what goes on? I mean, how far do you want to chase reality? I mean, do you want to chase reality to infinity? Sure, you could, and you could keep adding one. So you'd be fucking around with that forever. So my attitude is, pick a spot in reality and play in there. That's your playground. And then the more knowledge that you acquire and the more you grow spiritually, that playground will begin to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's no limit to how far you can go with that, because even after you make it to paradise, you're going to leave paradise maybe after 1,000,000 years, and you're going to come back out into the worlds of time and space, and who knows, you might end up doing another adventure. And who knows, you might come back to your universe of origin, and Michael might ask you a favor. And what are you going to do? Say no? So there's the possibility is endless.
Yeah. And I got a comment on that. I guess sometimes it doesn't happen so much anymore, but under certain circumstances, when I'm coming back from a dream, I guess I keep doing the same sort of, it's like I'm deliberately seeing how many permutations or how many variations of an experiment or of an action or of a whatever. It seems like a waste of time, but it seems like there's some reason for doing it, and I get the feeling every so often that that's part of what's happening in the universe. It's a giant laboratory where, say, let's try all the holes in all the wheels of the spirograph set. See what we get.
No, and that is exactly
with each
right.
color pen.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, but you're kind of entering the realm of Michael when you try to do that, because Michael already worked all that out. Michael spent 3 billion years working all that out at the beginning of his universe. And so all those permutations, he already ran the math, and he knew what I figured out along the way, because I ran the permutations too. But then I began to realize that it's a waste of time, because Michael already did it. Really, what it came down to is, what permutation am I going to choose? I mean, I could run all the permutations about either taking the left road or the right road. And I could run all these permutations, and it's like, no, sooner or later I have to make a decision. Left, right, or right, left, left, right. And so, yeah, So it came to the point where I decided a while ago that all I can really do is I can only run so many scenarios in my mind before I start spinning my wheels. And once I get to
Mm-hmm.
that point where I'm spinning my wheels, I realize that I've got to make a decision. And it sometimes even happens in my professional life. I mean, it's like I might be diagnosing a piece of machinery and it's either like this part or that part. And I just like, fuck, because it's like I've got to pull the trigger. Which one am I going to test? And
Mm-hmm.
which one am I going to gamble the the customer's dollar on?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, there's been a few times, I kid you not, that on a complex piece of equipment, I've crossed my fingers more than once. It'd just be like, oh, fuck. And I would go over everything
Mm-hmm.
as many times as I could before I'd realize it's like, okay, I'm spinning my wheels. It's down to these two things, no matter how I look at the wiring diagram. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll tell well, you know what? Those are times when I almost just have to just stand back and just close my eyes, and it's like I've got to make a decision. The likelihood of it being this one, I put at so and so because of the components involved. This one, okay, maybe because there
Mm-hmm.
was extreme heat involved. So,
Mm-hmm.
boom, I would gamble on that piece, and I would say at least over 99% of the time I've been right.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and so I'm always like, well, and every time it happens, I'm just like, because
Yeah.
sometimes these parts can run up to $1,000,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, you make a mistake, and then you tell the customer, it's like, well, I need that $1,000 part instead. I mean, for one, you look like an idiot.
Yeah. And I thought that we have, it's kind of a double-edged sword because we have a service manual for pretty much every piece of complex equipment we own from the John Deere D on up to the combines.
Hmm.
And it's usually been very helpful, but especially with the combines that have basically the one is a computer with a separator built around it. And so you look through this decision tree and to check this, check this, check the, and you go through it and get to the end and like, okay, what was the point of doing that? The thing isn't working, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, but yeah, no, it's and then I have to call the dealer and they say, and then that's where experience comes in.
Mm.
I had some kind of a thing fail and I tried to go through it and I'm like, okay, it says pull this harness, check this plug, and I'm like, first thing I do is break the retaining tab off the harness, and then I need a winch to unplug it because they're so tightly in there. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they'll know more than I do about this because they've actually done it a bunch of times. And
Mm.
he's like, yeah, you could do that, but actually, let's check this. And it
Ah,
was, yeah, he knew what he was talking
yeah,
about. So
no, your
yeah,
experience.
mm-hmm,
I mean, I see it in every day. It's like there are certain components that fail, and they just because of the environment that they operate in, but they just do, and
uh-huh.
sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. I mean, they can engineer and re-engineer, but there's only so far you can go. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they could make things almost indestructible. I've tried to explain this to a buddy of mine. He complains a lot about things being cheap. I was like, yeah, they could make it almost indestructible, but who's going to buy it? Because the price on it is going to be at a level that nobody's going to reach.
Yeah.
So they manufacture things at a certain price point so that the consumer can afford to buy it. And this is what they want to do. They want people to consume their product. So I was like, this is the balancing act that engineers, when you're designing shit, this is the shit that you run into. I mean, if I mean if companies, they basically, they look at a product and they're just look at the engineer, and it's just like, I know you're comfortable with all this extra material around this fitting, but if we could just shave a little bit off, we could cut the price point and get it to the consumer faster. And also, but then there's some things that you can't cut price on. Like in my trade, it's just highly dangerous to do so. So everything in my world is high price. Like you would look at it and you would just be like, but then I do have a helper that comes in and works in the shop with me. He works on domestic appliance, and he looked at the prices of what our parts cost, and he knows what the parts cost in the domestic world. He is shocked. And I tell him, I was like, yeah, but you see, this stuff, I said, is built to last in a commercial environment for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
I said, this isn't grandma using her stove 2 or 3 times a day. No, this is a stove that's getting fired up at 6 a.m. in the morning, and it ain't shutting down until 11 o'clock at night. It's constant. And I was like, and same thing with dishwashers. I was like, domestic dishwasher you might run once a day. Commercial dishwasher,
never shuts off.
oh my God, service time, it never shuts off. But you see, there's a balancing point that the restaurants have to find too, because they don't want to take up a whole bunch of space for cutlery and dishware. So they've got a balancing, but they have just enough to cover every tabletop. And that's it. And when those dishes come back in on the pass, they want that shit washed instantly because it's heading back out. And I've been caught in rush hour service at a high-end restaurant, and I'll tell you, it's go time. And it's like I almost got fucking trampled on the line, but they needed me there to get their shit going so that they could keep making money. And yeah, it's not a pleasant situation, but it's a good thing that I'm a skinny guy, because I can, I kid you not, when I'm like working on, I'm just like, I'm tucked right in, and the chefs can run back and forth beside me, and my tool bag sticks out further than me.
Yeah, that's good. I was going to say, I watch one of my favorite shows on YouTube is Smarter Every Day. And he's doing this series about visiting a Navy submarine, and they allowed him to use certain video that he took on there. So he's explaining how the various parts of the submarine work. And one of the episodes has the galley and the chefs and the kitchen and the corridors and everything are exactly as wide as a serving tray. That's it. You're if you see the captain coming down the hallway, you better duck into a room or another corridor or an alcove. It's like one-way traffic there.
That's the way it is on planes too. And yeah, once the cart starts coming down the aisle, it's like, yeah, you're stuck in your seat because you ain't getting around that thing. They've got to back it all the way up for you. But I traveled a few times, and I don't know. People are scared of planes. I find the things fun.
Yeah, I like them.
I love flying. I especially love the taking off part and the landing part. That's
fun.
And I
got my private pilot's license through Oklahoma State, so I learned to fly single engine Cessnas and stuff. So I know kind of what goes on when they're doing all that. How many parts have to not screw up to get you in the air?
Oh man, I mean, I've watched them, I've watched the wings as the plane is landing, and I just look at all that shit, and I was like, people don't understand. There's a lot going on there, and once thing fails, I was like, we'll be half fucked. But I don't know. There's I've seen amazing stories where pilots have have landed under extraordinary circumstances.
Yes.
It's like, and I've seen it just be like, how the fuck? My favorite, I think it was the plane. It landed in the Potomac River, I think.
Hmm.
Like they had no choice. Like they were fucked. And
Was that Sully, the
what's that?
Hudson, or was that a Hudson is New York? They landed in the Hudson River. Sully with Tom Hanks. They made a movie out of it.
Yes, I think they did. Yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. The situation there was they were doing their climb out. They hit a flock of geese, destroyed both engines. So basically, this Airbus 320, 350, whatever it was, became a glider instantly.
mm,
And they were going to they explained the situation to control, and they suggested that they go to what's the airport across the river in Jersey or wherever. I think they took off from JFK or LaGuardia. There's a smaller one. I don't remember its name, but looking at the map and the runway and things, and I've done this actually. We do simulated engine outs in pilot training, so that if you lose your engine, you have some idea of what you're supposed to do. You want to land on something directly ahead of you if you can. Trying to get to a runway that's kind of parallel to you with no engine is not a good idea.
mm,
So I understand why he chose to land in the river instead of to try to turn around, turn right, and then turn back left and try to line up on the runway and get the glide slope and be high enough and all of that, because turning a plane sinks it real fast because physics.
yeah,
It's not gliding. It takes more and more energy to keep it in the air, and it goes down faster when you're turning.
yeah. But the new planes do have an advantage over planes that were built a while ago. Is they do that
Yes.
turn up on the wing on the end.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, that turn up is like putting an extra 40 feet of wing on the plane
Yeah, the
without.
winglet. They do something with the slipstream that it turns the slipstream that, I don't know, it's like a vortex or something that comes off the end of the wing, and the wing, what that does is it turns it up, and it makes it lift the plane a little more.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It took them a long time to figure that one out. Like
Mm-hmm.
it took watching slow motion video of birds of prey
Mm-hmm.
because it's like because of how they come down to get their prey and are able to get back up so fast. And that's
Mm-hmm.
always been like a mystery to scientists because these birds are heavy, but yet they're floating through the air like they weigh nothing. And their wingspan couldn't explain it all. It could explain how they could stay in flight, but it couldn't explain these graceful aerial maneuvers that they could do. And when they started watching, like in slow motion, what the birds were doing with their wings, they slowly began to realize that it's how they tip up the edges of their feather.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives them more control on the glide. And yeah, and so they decided to start trying it on model airplanes, and voila. And the Wright brothers weren't the first to invent the airplane. The airplane was invented either in South America or Egypt or both.
Hmm.
The models are in the tombs. And yeah, people have made these models and they've attached the engine to the models, and these models fly. They have made mock-ups of these models, and they've put them in wind tunnels and tested them, and they are a superior design to what we have been using. And it's like, well, what the hell? Why
Wow.
why is this better than what we're doing? Nobody can explain it. But apparently, but yeah, they had airplanes. I mean, they had models of them anyways, but I can imagine that they these models are like used as jewelry, and there's a
Hmm.
lot of them. So if there's a lot of something, it tells you that it more than likely
Hmm.
existed, and it was something that was admired for people to wear it as jewelry. So maybe there were pilots and they were admired, these people that could fly and maneuver these things. Maybe it
Hmm.
took a great deal of skill to do it, but they were doing it. And I don't doubt that, because the Fallen did give us a lot of technology and a lot of knowledge at first, when they thought that they could just be teachers and not have Michael at the center of their teaching. Let's just fuck the creator. We'll teach you, but we're just going to leave all that stupid shit out.
Hmm.
And so that's what they did. Is they just wanted to teach, but they didn't want to add a spiritual context to it. So because they didn't understand the spiritual context for some odd reason, and so they tried to teach man all these wonderful things, but these things have to be programmed into the morphogenic field slowly over time. And you've got to build on the blocks of knowledge. And, first you got to know how to make fire. Then you got to know how to make fire really fucking hot before you can start playing with iron and metals. Okay? So it's the same as anything in life. Like when we teach our children, first we teach them how to count to 10, then we teach them how to count to 20, then we teach them their ABCs, we teach them how to pronounce their ABCs, then we start putting it all together and showing them the words, and at the same time we're teaching them how to write. We give them lines, we give them dots to trace so that they can start developing the muscle memory, how to make an A, how to make a B. You learn the muscle memory. That's how you learn to write. That's why you're able to write without having to look at the page sometimes, is because you have muscle memory. It was trained into you when you were young. Same thing with morphogenic fields, except we're looking at huge expanses of time. Well, the Fallen didn't understand any of this. And maybe Lucifer did, but thought that he could do it a different way.
Hmm.
And it doesn't work like that. And so what they found is that they were constantly reteaching mankind these simple concepts of technology, and it wasn't sticking. It wasn't sticking because there was no foundation in the morphogenic field to build upon. And after about 50 or so thousands of years, they just got frustrated with mankind, and plus they didn't have the tree of life, so they were all dying because Van took the tree of life and hid it from them. So they didn't have the tree of life, and at some point they discovered that human blood was a way to extend their life, and then they found that they could like take the life essence directly out of the human to sustain themselves. And well, that caused its own problems, because every time they absorbed the life essence of humans, they were absorbing that human's experience and that human's nature and that human's personality into themselves. And they began to go mad because they would have memories that were not their own, and they didn't understand where these memories were coming from. And yeah, and in short time, because they weren't paying attention to what was going on in the galaxy, everything went to shit. Everything went to shit about 50,000 years ago. and most of them were killed off. Thank fuck. They were all insane. They were nothing to be admired. I know people like they admire like the Anunnaki. It's like, oh, these gods are going to come and save us. No, these were just fucked. These were just fucked personalities. They were the material sons, material children, some angels. They all just fucking. They were just insane, and they thought they knew a better way than what Michael had for a plan. And they're finding out now where we are at now. Their plan doesn't work. There's only one way to run a universe. And Michael figured that out. In his 3 billion years where he could not leave Salvatron, he worked it all out. Every permutation, and at some point, he chose what kind of a universe he wanted. Out of everything that fucking he could experience. I mean, a lot of this was already done on Paradise. Before he left Paradise, he knew what kind of a universe he wanted. He wanted to create a human universe. And so that's what he did. And so when he did his 3 billion years, yeah, he was running through how he wanted his human universe. And there was like 1 billion other ways he could have chosen to build his universe, but he chose to do it this way. And he's running the plan. This whole Lucifer rebellion, yeah, it's a wrench. It's a wrench in the cog. And it's upset everything. But you know what? It wouldn't be much of a universe if there weren't a few surprises. And Michael seems to welcome the surprises. I think he gets a little excited when it's like, ooh, this is different. Because, I mean, this rebellion has gotten way out of control, but the rest of the universe is learning something from it. They're learning. Sometimes you got to show people how not to do things so they understand how to do them right. What is that you're saying? There's like 1,000 ways you could, you can do something wrong 100 times, but you only have to do it right once.
Yeah, something like that. I think I said sometimes success is more like running out of ways to do it wrong.
Yeah. And more than one inventor in history has said that. Yeah. You'll do it wrong, and I've done it wrong 1,000 different ways. Usually what I try to do is I try to do as much on paper and with the computer as I can, so that when I do have to finally put something into reality, it will be as close to the end result as possible. And usually it's nice when it only takes 3 iterations.
Yeah.
When you're inventing something.
There's a story about Thomas Edison, and the story is he tried 10,000 different designs for the incandescent light bulb, and until he found one that was successful. And people asked him, so you failed 10,000 times? And he said, no, I successfully found 10,000 ways it would not work.
And here's the kick in the nuts for Edison. You got to hand it to Edison. He had a good publicist. Nikola Tesla had already invented the fluorescent light bulb.
Yeah.
And it took less power. And I don't know why Edison wouldn't like it, because it could work off of DC as well. But and here's the real kick in the nuts to Edison, and this is why he really hated Nikola Tesla, is because Nikola Tesla invented the fluorescent light bulb on a whim. He was at I think he was at a one of those world fairs, and he was told that it's too dark. People are not going to be able to see. And he said right on the spot, I'll take care of that. And a week later, he came back with fluorescent bulb. Yeah, that's the legend,
Yeah.
anyways. So
Cool.
yeah,
Do
kicking the
you
nuts.
know the story? Yeah. Do you know the story of why Edison wanted to create the incandescent light bulb? Do you know why? What his motivation was for inventing it?
I don't think I do.
Okay. Well, what this was like in the late 1800s or so. What was used as a source of light in cities in the mid to late 1800s, usually
Oh,
before the
candle
invention of
and
the
the
incandescent light
pitch.
bulb?
Oh, you don't even want to know how much that stank up the streets, and cleaning those lamps was a
Yeah.
complete fucking nightmare. Yeah.
Gas. They used the gas
Yeah.
lights, and apparently there was it was kind of like energy and internet and phone today. They were charging him up the kazoo for that, for the gas, for
Yeah.
the light. And he thought, well, there's, we've just begun using electricity, and it's, you can get it for next to nothing. So maybe I can make a light source that runs on this cheap stuff. Is the story I heard for why he wanted the incandescent light bulb.
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me. And I think I've heard a story where he began to fear flame. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but the light bulb might have been invented after his first laboratory ended up burning down.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I think Edison had an aversion to fire after that. And I can relate. I understand. Yeah. It's not that you're scared of the fire, it's what the fire took from you.
Mm-hmm.
And a man like Edison, nobody takes anything from him, not even fire. And I imagine that he was probably a little angry about that for the rest of his life,
Mm-hmm.
even though he did put a positive spin on it, because he did say, well, it means that we can build it back better. I think that he was like, looking at the bright side of things, but I think that there was a little bit of anger under there that the fire had taken everything that he had built to that point. Because there would have been like papers that he could never replace, notes that can never be replaced. I mean, I still weep over the notes that I have lost, and the books are lost, because there was information in there that I cannot get back. Yeah, it came out of my mind, but I was in a space where I was doing all of that. You know, it's what was going on around me at that time that inspired me to do all those drawings and all those inventions. To try to go back into that space and try to reinvent, I mean, some of the really good ones, I was able to redraw some of them, but there were some good ones. I had designs on motors that were just like I would love to have built it, and yeah, gone.
Yeah. Have so I got a couple of things on my end. I guess I've begun. I had how I say I'm when something goes wrong and I kind of have a meltdown and then I recover. I realize that I'm recalibrating.
Yeah,
I had that happen today. I had this meltdown over nothing really, and when it was done, it didn't last very long, and I recovered like lightning fast. That was good, but um, I learned something from it. I was working on the tractor and doing two different service items, and I thought, well, this was draining the final little final drives on the end of the axles. So I thought, well, while those are draining, I'm going to change the headlights, which need to be replaced. So I'd done one, and then we went in for lunch, and I pulled the other final drive, and by the time when I returned to the tractor, I saw that the second final drive had finished draining, but I thought, oh, well, I want to change the other headlight first so I can have both of them done. And that's it. The one was, I had it changed in 5 minutes. The other one, the moment I touched it, it started falling apart, and I thought, well, you know what? I should have finished the final drives first, filled them back up. It's a lesson. Something was telling me, and the kicker there was there's an ever decreasing or an ever increasing subtlety of the clues, and it's always there if I had paid attention to
Yep.
a thing. And I kind of knew what I should have paid attention to, but I got used to saying, oh, well, it's going to be okay, or I'll, and then at one time it isn't. So it wouldn't have hurt anything to finish the final drives that, they finished draining. So fill them back up with new oil, get that done.
Yeah, no.
And usually that's the thing. If it was what I planned to do and it wouldn't have hurt anything to do it that way, I probably should do it that way.
Always looking for shortcuts. That's like I was telling you about the load on the truck. Little voice, check those straps. It'll be fine. No, it wasn't. It's like, ah, fuck. And I knew. And then, yeah, lost a couple of boxes. Had to go back and pick them up. And yeah, so lesson learned. Don't trust one certain co-worker to load truck and expect it to be a decent load.
Oh goodness, yeah, no second set of eyes. Even if I load that thing and tie it down, I want another set of eyes to look at it.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's why I like my service van. Shove everything in there. I don't have to think about it. Doors are closed. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all I got to do. Now,
okay.
They keep asking.
You were talking.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You were talking about the timelines converging and stuff. I had this dream a few nights ago, and it was let's see, how'd it go? I was with a group of people meeting in I don't know, like restaurant or conventions or some kind of place, and I don't think it even mattered what we were meeting to discuss. The situation had deteriorated to the point that was probably it wouldn't have mattered if we were discussing whether we should push for all paper to be made out of hemp versus sugarcane. It was the fact that we hadn't gotten authorization to hold the meeting or something. It was like that, and the hordes were descending because we had gotten together to discuss something and not cleared it, or I don't know what, and we tried to go out the back, and we thought it was about to be over, but then the army showed up, and things changed fast. So I thought that was, and it was so intense. I thought it was possibly significant. I thought I should tell you about that dream.
No, and that you know what immediately comes to mind is a Twitter post, Twitter meme, or maybe it was on Facebook. It doesn't matter. I would never have believed in 2021 that the cops would come busting through our door while we were smoking weed and hanging out as a family, and the hanging out as a family part would be the illegal part. That summed it up.
Yep.
That's like, yep, that sums up your dream. It's like, really? It's like sitting around smoking pot with your family, and it's the hanging out with your family part that's illegal. Oh, the pot's fine. I mean, not that I'm against pot or anything. I mean, I just think about how long it's been illegal, and all the people that went to jail because of pot, and now people are going to jail for preaching. Christian minister went to jail. Police hanging outside of churches for whatever reason, ready to give people tickets, ready to arrest them. Who the fuck knows? And I've tried to explain this to people. This is a war on religion. Plain and simple. You don't understand it. It's like, open your fucking eyes. Gambling houses, open. Strip clubs, open. Bars, open. Churches, closed or restricted. Considerably more than a bar is. You know, preachers' food kitchens that feed the homeless and preach the gospel. People are being arrested and going to jail. And the guy that's doing this in Calgary on the street, he said it as plain as day. He says, "You people are stupid." He says, "If I don't feed these people, you're gonna find them fucking breaking into houses, breaking into cars. Desperate people are going to do desperate things. It's plain and simple. Things that they normally wouldn't want to do. But when a man's belly is grumbling, and it's been grumbling for 2 days, shit's going to start happening. I mean, I know myself. It's like fucking, I get really irritable if I'm hungry. And if I'm hungry for 2 days, at some point, I ain't going to give a fuck. And I'm busting in somebody's fucking house and I'm raiding their refrigerator. It's as simple as that. You don't think that that's going to happen? Of course it's going to fucking happen. I mean, shit, people have fucking found people living in their attics, for fuck's sakes. They'd go to work and they would wonder why things were missing out of the refrigerator. They'd blame the kids and everything. And then they find out there's been this homeless dude living up in the fucking attic. He was just really fucking quiet. My only question in my mind is, where the fuck did he go piss and shit? But apparently he was like taking showers. He made himself at home when everybody went to work. Imagine the whole COVID thing over the past year has probably interrupted any of those scenarios. But it's happened. People living in people's attics for months. So, yeah. Oh, what a world we live in. Again, if we had a fair capitalist system, there would really be no need for any social programs from the government. The only government's job would be to administrate the country. That'd be it. Because when people do well, they always, without fail, give back to the community when shit is brought to their attention. When it is brought to people's attention about a family that is freezing to death, and the children need jackets and they need a barrel of oil to stay warm, when it's brought to people's attention, everybody will chip in the community to help the family and then begin to search for long-term solutions to help them. I've seen it many times in New Brunswick, and I've heard of it happening out here. It happens all the fucking time. You just don't see it because these are small communities pulling together to help a family buy, pay their gas bill or what have you, just to stay warm for the winter. Now, what happens when everybody is doing poorly? Well, you start to take care of yourself and your own because you've got no choice and you've got no extra to help that family down the road. Not anymore. You're fucked. Because if you help that family down the road, your family's going to suffer, and you fucking well know it. So this is the climate that's being created now. Whereas in a fair society, the ones that don't do well for whatever reason will always get a leg up by the ones that are doing well. Even if it means sweeping sidewalks. Shit, I knew a guy in our hometown in New Brunswick. He was, simple in the head, I guess would be the term to use, and he got like $20 for sweeping the steps at the local hardware store, and he would get a little bit more. He would get money for shoveling and shit like that. I mean, the guy was doing okay. The community was taking care of this guy because the hardware store wasn't the only thing that he was doing. He was also going up to the seniors complex and he was helping up there. And the seniors would give him like, $5 here, $2 there for helping out, with whatever they needed done. He was a nice guy, and fucking that guy was actually making a living. I mean, he didn't need much. I mean, he was paying room and board at somebody's house, and they were offering it to him cheap. But that guy was paying his way. I was amazed. Hitchhiked everywhere that he went. That's how I ended up actually having a deeper conversation with him. And you found out some things about him. And I was amazed that, how busy he kept himself. He would hitchhike into St. John once or twice a week and hang out at this coffee shop uptown St. John, and he would hang out with all of his Salvation Army buddies that he knew, and they would like play music and tell stories, and it was a fun time for them. And then fucking he would hitchhike back to Hampton. So yeah, there's always a place for people, in a fair society. A society that's not struggling to take care of itself because of a tyrannical government. Oh, and Ottawa this week, this was my favorite. Ottawa has decided to dismantle the armed forces, Canadian armed forces. I shook my fucking head. If people don't understand, that's actually treason. That's fucking our Prime Minister committing treason. Because if you entertain the idea of shutting down the armed forces, then that invites foreign occupation on Canadian soil. And it's like, and this foreign occupation may not even have to fire a shot. I mean, can you imagine fucking China having a standing army on Canadian soil? I mean, we have a prime minister that would be dumb enough to allow that. I mean, they're in Vancouver. There's a whole fucking contingent in Vancouver. People don't know this. It's like they were invited by Trudeau. Military doesn't like it because they're not stupid. I mean, too many secrets. It's one thing to like have operations together. It's another thing to allow fucking a foreign army in your backyard, seeing everything. You got no secrets now. So it's like that's just pure stupidity from a national security point of view. And you can say, well, we have no enemies. It's like you put out a free meal, every bum in the neighborhood is going to show up. And who knows? Maybe Russia might decide to drop some soldiers on our soil too. There's no army to stop them from doing it. They could come down from the north. What? There's fucking tons of fucking Russian activity up north. What do you think? Why do you think the government pays the Eskimos? Are you kidding? The Eskimos are actually our frontline defense in the north. They're the only ones that want to live up there. Government's like, okay, we'll help you out. Snowmobiles and gasoline. And it's like, boom, they cover a lot of territory. Why do you think why do you think the government wants them to, the military definitely wants them to cover that territory. They see a Russian sub parked out there somewhere, they can report it back. That's basically all they do. And plus they have guns, so that's helpful too. And what, you think they can afford to buy snowmobiles and import gasoline up north? It's like, I wonder why people don't think. It's like, where's an Eskimo making $43,000 to buy a snowmobile or whatever they cost? A couple of them at that. Planes flying in and out all the time. Yeah, this is all part of our national defense. It's kind of, I don't think too many other countries do it this way, but this is the way Canada does it. But yeah, Russians could come down, they park, and what happens if the Chinese and the Russians decide to fight? Next thing you know, fucking China and Russia's having a war on Canadian soils. Now we're the fucking Middle East.
Mhm.
I mean, that's essentially what happens in the Middle East. You get two armies on either side, and the people are caught in the middle. We're going to be those people. So this is what potentially dismantling a national, defense force is going to do. Well, that's treason. How else would you define that? Opening us up to that kind of, scenario, that's treason to every Canadian. And if the military in Canada doesn't recognize it as treason, then then the military is nothing but dumb dogs that only know how to follow orders. And that's sad when you think about it at the leadership level. But I don't think that we have dumb generals.
Okay, great. I've got one final comment. I guess we can wrap up with. I started reading the book, or it's a series of books, I guess. Conversations with God. Oh, I say
Oh, yeah.
Chris just started watching. Hi, Chris. Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and where am I at? The page 20, 30. It's very interesting the how this came about, and there's a few things that seem right on to me, a few things that not quite, but I was just comparing it to because I'd listened to the complete audio of the Urantia book before beginning Conversations with God, so I guess I get to compare those now. So that's kind of interesting. Did you say you had read Conversations with God?
Yeah, probably about 10 years
Ages
ago.
ago, yeah.
And I remember at the time that the dialogue agreed with reality as I understood it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I was just like, so I was very impressed. The conversation introduced new ideas that were interesting, and
And isn't that interesting that the in many new books, media, whatever that one discovers at a certain time, it's interesting how it appears to reflect the reality one, or take you one more step or something like that. The reality at the time, and maybe a little bit of a supplement, but it's like, oh yeah, this seems right on.
well, yeah, and and he talked about things that I had already known. Like
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that if you studied morphogenic fields and read Rupert Sheldrake's books and understood the implications, then you see that everything in the universe relates right back to morphogenic fields. Like everything. And so once you understand morphogenic fields, the rest of the universe actually opens up to you. I mean, physically and spiritually, because it's all interrelated. And that is what's revealed. And yeah, we've proven that they exist. We know they exist without a doubt. But for some odd reason, it seems to be difficult for conventional science to accept the reality of morphogenic fields, because if they accepted the reality of morphogenic fields, they would begin to understand that the Hadron Collider is a useless endeavor and a waste of time, unless, of course, you're trying to do something else. But it's a complete waste of time. And I don't know. Part of me thinks that once they enter God's realm, they will be consumed immediately. And they have scratched God's realm by discovering the Higgs boson particle, and now they want to build a bigger hadron collider and they want to go that extra step. And I'm like, you people, you get into God's realm, you might have enough time to report what you discovered before your whole reality comes fucking crashing down. And, so I have no idea what they think they're going to do with that. And I don't think they're going to open up a black hole or anything like that, but they have already gotten the creator's attention. What do they think is going to happen when they get the Father's attention? And I mean, in a lot of ways, we're lucky that the Father's mind is occupied with the universe. And his interaction with us is through the thought adjuster. So that interaction is very different from the interactions that God has to go through in reality. I mean, there's a lot of shit that goes on in the universe, and life feeds on life, and the Father witnesses it all. He witnesses the lion hunting down the caribou or whatever the hell they eat. I mean, the Father has witnessed the death of his creatures countless times. Let that sink into a person's mind for a while. I mean, shit, I always felt bad for the animals when we had to fucking slaughter them on the farm. But at the same time, I'd think it's fucking necessary because needed the money.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the difference between dealing with the Father through a thought adjuster and whatever you're describing with the giant physics machines. It's like the thought adjuster. Everybody's taken the 9-volt battery and put your tongue on it. Right? that you can tell the state of the charge by how much it fizzles, and that's through the thought adjuster. And then you build this particle accelerator that encircles Australia or whatever, and crack the next level of this thing. That's like jumping into your hot tub and then getting out and immediately grabbing the hot in the ground, say, of 660.
Yeah. No,
you're in for a rough day.
You are absolutely right. That is the
if
difference.
You survive that. So
yeah. That's the difference I was trying to describe. Is that that is the difference between dealing with the Father directly and dealing with the Father through the thought adjuster. Huge difference. This is why the thought adjuster exists for us, so that we can make that connection with the Father, so that we can make that journey to paradise, so that when we finally do end up in front of the eternal Father, he will recognize us as himself, and we will know ourselves as God, and God will know himself as us. And so when you see it, all the old writings begin to make sense. They knew what they were talking about, but they just spoke a different language from us and a completely different understanding than us. I mean, we're a more technological society, so we have to think more in technological terms. Oh, and my favorite? Oh man, I love this one. Okay, you know the story of the seed, the parable of the seed? Seed lands on the hard soil and doesn't root and burns in the sun. Gone. Seed that lands in the shallow soil, it will grab a root and then grow. But then when the sun comes out, it shrivels up and dies because its roots are not deep enough. And then the seed that lands on the good soil, it gets nice deep roots. When the sun comes out, it endures because it has rooted itself in its own faith. And I seen him. There was a meme, and I never thought of it this way, but the meme was hilarious, and maybe it's an old meme. Who knows? Red pill, blue pill, black pill. Red pill. That is the seed that grabs a root, has faith, believes. But in our modern terms, red pill is someone that goes out, seeks the truth, and will do their own research. That's someone who's red pilled. Blue pill, someone who doesn't wake up. You show them all the information. They don't understand. They don't give a fuck for whatever reason. They like being plugged into the matrix. Blue pill. There you go. But then there's a black pill. The black pill. I think this has been coming out recently because of, this is why Trump had to go into hiatus. Okay? Because what people don't understand is that people were beginning to worship him.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is a servant like the rest of us. He's no God. It's quite possible he is an incarnation of a material son. It is, I suspect that he is, and he's likely a son of Adam, and his wife's name, Ivanka? No, that's his daughter, isn't it? Anyways, his what?
Melania.
What?
Melania.
Melania, yes. So, and Melania is an incarnation of his twin sister. And so they're twins and they incarnate. That is what I suspect. I might be wrong. Who the fuck knows? But shit, he's a kingmaker now. And so people were beginning to worship him. He had to take himself off the stage so that he would not be worshipped.
Yeah, I
Remember
can
what?
see that.
Remember what Adam did when the people started worshiping him? How horrified him and Eve were, and had to set the people straight real quick. Before they fucking started down a road that there would be nothing that he could do. So yeah, so they had to get off the stage, but he hasn't stopped. I mean, this guy is fucking crashing parties, and so, but the people this is where the black pill comes in, and this is the third type of person that we have discovered. Someone who was red pilled, but then now things are happening that they don't like, so now they go back to blue pilling themselves. They go back into the matrix. See how we've brought it into our modern world? It's the exact same fucking parable. And once I read black pill, it all fucking fell into place. I was like, that is beautiful. Look how we have evolved. And
I was going to say, we're just at the Urantia book was written just at the time it was released. It was created in about 1935 or so, published first in 1955, and a clever person, say a physicist or a philosopher or something in 1955, might be able to grasp what, but today, 2021, we, I think, have enough now and will enough concept going forward to understand what the book is actually talking about, and to understand certain universal concepts at a level that we can, from a childlike level for some of them, but we can engage with them. When, say, from 1900 and back, 2000 years, there wasn't, I've said before, it was, I am impressed by what Jesus was able to do with what he had available to work with.
Very impressive.
The people he chose 12 people, a cross section of society. He didn't take all the most intellectuals, the most etc. It was, but he was able to see in each of them the ability to teach them something and see potential. But I think now each of us is what am I going to say? I was going somewhere with that thought, but yeah, it's
Well,
everything's converging now. It's a little bit more accessible, the information, and for anyone who wants to, who loves the truth as much as some of us do.
well, I say our understanding of the world around us has helped write
Yes.
their Urantia book. Because the thing
Mm-hmm.
is too is that another book was written too, but I'm not sure how this book fits in, other than maybe certain personalities were getting impatient.
Mm.
But I think the only other book that had come close was probably the Book of Mormon.
Oh, really?
He came awfully close,
Mm.
but he had too much shit in his own fucking psyche for
Mm-hmm.
anything to come out properly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I mean, I've read not all of it, but enough to understand that this guy was on to something, but he was also a fucking con artist.
Mm.
So somehow he was able to tap into something, and and he produced something that was very close to the truth, but in somewhat of a perverted way, I
Mm.
thought, because of just the way that he referred to things. It left room for people to create a bigotry.
Yeah,
And
it's
that,
interesting how easily that can happen in our,
yeah.
um, I listen, I interact with or listen to, or someone that I really admire, and then they go and do something crass or crude, or it's like, where did that come from? This, that if I were at, that level, or that, I don't know, it seems inconsistent, but or
And
it's not something. If I were at that, in that stratum, or going on that, I mean, here I am
no,
telling
I
talking about
understand.
other people and stuff, but
No,
it's just weird.
no, I understand because I have seen YouTube user channels, and it's like this guy is like at a like a 500,000 subscribers. So you would think that that they like, and then to discover that they have this bigotry that you just can't agree
Mm-hmm.
with. And yeah, you do wonder. It's like you're
Mm-hmm.
like so open in all this other stuff. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on in this particular part? It's like, and I guess I'd be fine with something, but if you want to put yourself out there in the public space like that, you best be prepared to explain your position.
Yeah.
And maybe I might be able to meet you halfway on something. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I can be understanding. Okay, certain environmental factors do fuck up people's way of thinking. It's like, okay, that's fine, but you really should work on, looking at things from this perspective instead of just that one lens. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be an SJW about it and tell a person what they should be thinking, but I certainly would try to suggest that, try looking at something differently, at least. Let them, I mean, I don't know. I like it better when people make choices. I understand Michael in that regard very well. Me and him are
Mm-hmm.
like almost like, you know, one and the same on that. It's so much nicer when people choose to do things on their own and for their own reasons. Like,
Interesting guy. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, take David Zebedee. I love that guy. I mean, he's my favorite guy
Mm-hmm.
because and I would never have known of his existence without the Urantia book, but he played a huge role in in spreading Jesus's message. I mean, without his
He was their
messenger, sir.
patron, basically.
Yeah, but
He
without
had this. Yeah, he was their patron.
yeah, but without his messenger service, there would have been no
Yep.
ministry. That
Right.
messenger
Right. Yeah.
service was everything because these
Mm-hmm.
guys were running around, they were collecting donations,
Mm-hmm.
they were keeping everybody in touch, and because of those runners, they were able to build a community.
Yeah.
Because those runners were like showing up at believers' doors and saying, listen, you want to help out the
Mm-hmm.
ministry? And in the meantime, they would have a conversation. They'd certainly get a meal. I mean, they'd be offered food for sure, and the very least water. So this that's a community. I mean, what David Zebedee did, I don't think that we would have what we have today if it wasn't for him. I think that's how important he was. And Jesus pretty much said as much to him when he said, it's like, you know what? Everybody else was like following my lead. You.
Mm-hmm.
You decided all on your own that this is what you were going to do for me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, shit, Jesus wept on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, when you think about it, that's love. Holy fuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's love. And you got to understand, and people need to understand, it's like the Zebedee brothers, like, like, that family adopted Jesus. Like, not officially, but he was like, he was their son. He was their brother as far as they was concerned. I mean, he slept there. He ate there. He worked there. It was always the first place that he would visit before actually visiting his own family. And it's like, so I mean, he loved these people, and these people loved him. And I understand why, because they believed him, and I think they knew he was the Son of God, but they didn't want to say it out loud. But I could see, like, that old man and that old lady. I think they knew that he was the Son of God. They certainly knew that he was special, but there was a reason why he called Joseph Zebedee. Was it Joseph Zebedee? Maybe. Well, anyways, Zebedee the senior. There was a reason why he called him Thunder,
Mm-hmm.
because the man was probably quite powerful. And we've learned from the Son of Man that he doesn't judge people by their physical, he judges them spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's quite the title.
Awesome. Okay. Well, it's 9:12.
Oh, let's finish up. Black pill. That's
Okay.
the seed that landed on the shallow soil.
Mm-hmm.
And when the sun came out, which it did, and fucking burned them to their roots, that was Trump walking away. They
Mm-hmm.
couldn't handle it. And it's like, and it was rough. I got to admit, I mean, it was a rough couple of weeks. But you know what? I'm seeing movement, and I'm seeing that he's off the stage, and everybody is focused back on the White House. And so now everybody gets to see all the weird shit going on and how everything is being different now.
Mm-hmm.
And the crisis at the border, that's turning into quite the fucking nightmare for Biden. Man, it's just like, I mean, it's like, remember I said that it seems like, Biden will, in the end, will be begging Trump to be president. In the end. And Biden let it slip. I miss that guy. I was like, oh my fuck. Because that guy kept attention off of him. So I was
My
like,
my favorite my favorite still is saying as, and he did this a couple of times, saying that the president. I mean, as president, he said as or whatever, the president as president.
oh,
Yeah.
he already called Trump, President Trump. I'm serious. He already fucking did that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what the fuck? I'm just like, so I mean, Kamala's president, Trump is president, he's president. Does he even fucking know what's going on? And then there's other times that I watch him. He's like coherent, on the money. But I mean, I'm only watching like the first 5 minutes because I can't
Mm-hmm.
bear anymore. And then I skip all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at that's where like all of these gaffes and all of these miss fucking steps in speaking, they all happen in the last 20 or 15 minutes of when he's
Mm.
talking. If he's talking for an
Mm-hmm.
extended period of time, but it's always near
Okay.
the end. It's like they were
Interesting.
able to juice
Yeah.
him up just long enough to come out and be coherent, but
I
the
bet.
juice is running out fast. I was
There's
surprised.
there's two possibilities. He may have, and they could be. Um, he could either be mental or reduced capacity, um, or he could know exactly what he's doing. As far as he's there's rumors he switched sides. He's playing out the. My, I just can describe it best by this one episode of The Simpsons where let's see, Homer. Somebody's after Homer, and they come into his house and they see Grandpa sitting on the couch, and they say, "Where's Homer?" And he says some old man thing that like, "Oh, he's skiing down a volcano in Hawaii or something like that." And then they say, "Are you saying that because you're senile or because you're trying to stall us?" And he says, "Some of column A, some of column B."
Oh shit. and
So
and
it's always interesting to watch the president of the United States Department of Political Comedy is my official title for him now.
and who knows, you might be right, but the thing is that there are some starking facial characteristics that are different from Biden like 3 or 4 years ago to Biden now.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
striking. And the most striking so far, and it's the one that's got me scratching my head, and it's pretty much sentient because the others, can be written off as like maybe plastic surgery, maybe, but and maybe
Mm.
even this could be written off, but it's like the earlobes are now attached. Now, I imagine that could happen if you got like a facelift. That's when they pull
Mm-hmm.
everything back to tighten everything up. And so they just like, and they make the incision right, like, right in front of the ear. And
Mm.
I think another one along the chin line. And they pull everything in to tighten the skin so you get rid of the wrinkles so you look younger. And then they put it all back together. And that can change the way people look enough that he might have had some surgery to get rid of the lines. I mean, some politicians do, but it's like, it's also suspect that you would keep that silent, but maybe they want to. But that's just more blackmail material. Who the fuck knows, right? He could have had it done in China for all we know. So there's that possibility that he had a facelift and it's not public knowledge. Like I said, it could have been done in China, no record in the United States of it being done, and it's still the original Joe Biden. And you might be right. It's a game. Or maybe it's not.
The
Maybe
quest
he's completely fucked.
the question I would ask, I guess, is: has a president ever been? You've seen the laying aside the question of whether he's acting or whether it's legit that his mental condition is a bit. Um, the things that is coming out of his mouth on national television,
Mm.
on YouTube we're watching, but on national television for all intents and purposes. Has any president in the past ever been permitted, let us say, to show that level of incapacity for, before they were, massaged or told, made it known that they were not fit or had to go to a sanitarium for a while, or whatever might have happened
Gerald
to them. Has that ever happened before?
Gerald Ford comes to mind.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But and no, but and it's off the charts. But and that actually brings up the question: why him? There were other
They want to see
there were
they
other
want to see how
viable
many people
candidates,
still support him.
but there were other
To
more viable candidates on
Oh my
that
goodness,
platform.
yes.
It's like, so why choose him? Why?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, did he really have the least amount of dirt? And if that's the case, that's fucked up, because there's a lot of dirt swirling around in the bucket of shit that they've created,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, really? So I'm wondering why they chose him. And my favorite conspiracy theory this week is somebody said that it was James Wood in a mask. I laughed, and I was like, no, not likely. Not likely. And this is what I was thinking earlier when that thought had left me. So I got it back. I think I might have answered a question. I think. I've been asking the question for a while now. Why are they in such a fucking hurry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they lost 4 years with Trump, but why are you in such a fucking hurry now? I mean, it's fucking moving fast. I mean, evil is at work on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always been at work, but it's never been this blatant before. And I'm asking myself, it's like, why? Why are they moving so fucking fast? What is going on? And I mean, I've entertained like tons of theories, but I mean, none of them seem to fit. I mean, you've got the solar flash that is predicted to come. Nobody knows when, some think by 2024. Uh, and it's like, I think I think that we are on the cusp of something, and it has to do with laying to rest old beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And and we'll be getting there very quickly. And I'm thinking that there's probably going to be maybe one more spear through the heart for
Mm-hmm.
those that are already awake. And then I don't know what's after that. But I think that and it's going to happen because the masses are not waking up fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, all of this has to be put together organically. This event will not be thrusted upon us. It will be of our own making. And it's going to come down to the choice of, you know, do people want to live under a mask forever and not being able to go and see family? Or are they going to do something? Or do you want to stand up and do something?
Mhm.
And I think that this will all start snowballing when the constitutionally compliant websites come out. And people are going to push the limits of free speech. I already know that. And I don't know. I think Mike should enact a policy that if something gets a X number of dislikes or an X number of blocks, maybe blocks. If they get like maybe over 100 blocks, it's like, okay, we'll look into this channel and we'll investigate it, and we'll see what's going on here. And I think that it would be wise for these constitutionally compliant websites to outline to people, because people are dumb, and outline the steps to be taken to protect yourself. I think that it would be wise for them to put the onus on the user and be straight up. This is a free speech platform. You might not like what's being said. Fuck off. If you don't like it, block it. Simple as that. And and if you want to, you could report it. If we see a channel get X number of blocks, we will automatically investigate it anyways. Like, people have to be told to use the block button. I can't even believe this. They will go through the trouble of writing all these complaints, but if the platforms just had a policy that if you get 100 blocks in a row or in a certain amount of time, then we're going to investigate you. Simple as that. We're going to find out why people are blocking your content. Oh, okay, they don't like that you're talking about Trump, but you're not publishing kiddie porn. Fine. You're not breaking the law. You're still within the realm of free speech. So what if people don't like what you have to say? They can block you from now until doomsday. But meanwhile, you might have half a million followers that like what you're saying. Right? And this is where these platforms, and this is where they're going to use Section 280. They're going to use Section 280 the way that it was meant to be used. Not the way that the mainstream platforms like Twitter and Facebook are using it. Well, they're not even using it. They say they're using it, but they're fucking using it for asswipe. But the constitutionally compliant ones can use it to say that they are not responsible for what people post. And so they cannot be held liable. The Supreme Court already held up this decision. So what more is there to say? People are like, Trump laid the foundation for all of this during his term. This is what I mean when I tell people, it's like Trump was laying the foundation with all these court cases. Like the mainstream media was laughing at Trump. Look at all of his court cases. And I kept on smiling. I was like, he's setting precedent in the courts. He assigned 300 new judges so that they could not clog the courts. Things are moving swiftly through the courts because they've got the people, the manpower. So Trump did that. That's all foundation work. Because if he didn't put in the extra judges, then the courts would be overbooked. But he spread that work out over 300 more judges. So, yeah, that's all foundation work. And so
Awesome.
all of these court cases are done. And the courts made their decision. And the Supreme Court has made its decision. So if anybody wants to fight these legal precedences, it's an uphill fucking legal battle. And Trump doesn't have to do nothing because they won't be fighting Trump. They'll be fighting the legal system. So it's not going to cost him a nickel. He already fucking did it, on the cheap because he took care of it beforehand. He was paying these lawyers anyways. So, yeah, foundation work is all laid out. Everything is we're going to start seeing things being built on that foundation. Yeah, but there's more to come for us.
Yeah, and final thought, I guess. When we look back, we will be astonished at how fast the end game played out.
Mm-hmm.
When we get into what I want to call it, when we get to a point where it's slightly, I'm not sure how I want to say it, but when this current situation is extremely likely to be resolved, let's say, and we all kind of know it's about to be resolved, or that it's a very good bet that it's going to be resolved. We'll look back and say, oh my goodness, we covered that much ground that quickly.
And
we thought we were at, we thought we were at Mach 1. We were at warp 9.
Yeah. and we handled it. And that's the other thing people need to understand. This is only the beginning. It's not going to stop. I mean, the events that are about to transpire is going to reveal the majority of the evil, but it's not going to reveal it all. Evil will find a crack to go hide in somewheres on this planet. They will find a crack. When we move forward onto the path of light and life, we have to pass on our diligence to the next generation. And
yes,
that has gotten lost in the last little bit. And one of the main reasons why it has gotten lost is because both parents have to work to survive in society. So there is no parent home to teach the child. So there's no parental beliefs being passed. Mind you, some parents are just poor parents, but it had to be this way. Q has also told us that. It has to be this way. Well, it had to be that way because there's an old belief system that was being passed from generation. This is what I was saying, that old beliefs have to die. And because we have almost 3 generations, quite possibly 3 generations, that have been raised essentially parentless and left to make up their own mind on what they believe or what they choose to believe and to structure their own belief system, all those old beliefs have been destroyed. And we have to rebuild a new system. But we will rebuild it on the old, just like the Son of Man did. Like, Jesus didn't come and replace what the Jews had already learned in their synagogues. He came and he added to their message.
Yeah.
And that meant also that he would have to sort of adopt Judaism's beliefs, like in the Messiah, the sacrifice, and blah, blah, bullshit. And so Jesus understood that would have to be incorporated, but he did his best to make sure that he was only going to try to keep the best parts of Judaism. And for the most part, it worked. And but now all of that's gone. I mean, there's very few children that have taken communion in these last couple of generations. And that's had an effect. So that's broken that blood cycle. And you start
Mm-hmm.
talking with the new generation, and I mean, one of the things, they do not like the idea of drinking of blood and eating his body.
Mm-hmm.
They have an aversion towards it. And this is where the Urantia book is going to come in for these people who have an understanding of technology. They have an understanding of how things work. The the New Testament doesn't cut it. It's poetry essentially, and you know, poetry you got to try to interpret. The Urantia book pretty much spells it out for you if you're willing to organize your mind and try to put it all together. It pretty much tells you everything that's going on and why it's happening. And yeah, there's a bigger game going on. Like in the universes of time and space, our 2,000 years is like a blank. I mean, Michael's
Mm-hmm.
working on eternity. That's the thing to understand. Yeah, it looks shitty for.
Yeah, that's the theme in the Urantia book. There's bigger things going on than you know, and that you could probably even conceive of at this moment.
So we're like ants on a hill in comparison, going about our little day until the boot comes down. Well, you see, that's what Michael's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Michael is keeping the boot from coming down so that we can have our nice little lives here on the ant farm. So that, you know, our spiritual potential will have the opportunity to blossom and to grow on out into the universe and finally on to paradise. That's what this is. This is the anthill. This is down on the farm. This is where souls are grown. This is where souls are born. This is where your potential is born. This is the only place where potential is born, is the best way to describe it. This is the only place where souls are born. Souls are not created. They're born right here. It's a combination. It's a trinity for us. We we are born from animal stock. We have a spirit because we're connected with the morphogenic fields of this planet, and we gain our soul through our connection with the thought adjuster. So with the combination between our spirit and the thought adjuster coming together, it creates a soul. And then that soul is what goes on for spiritual experience. Yeah, that's how it's all put together. This is where we get our roots. We will take what we learned here and we will take it into eternity with us. We will never forget where we are born. I mean, we will always remember. But the when you wake up on the other side, the really horrific memories will get somewhat filtered, so that it's almost like you're watching a movie and you're not the one being affected. And I do believe you get the chance that you get to choose to archive those memories, so you don't have to carry them with you. So there are memories that you can choose to archive and move forward without the baggage, because on this particular evolutionary world, we pick up a lot of baggage. So yeah, you get
Mm-hmm.
to organize, you get to archive those memories. You know that they're there, but you don't have to access them. It's like someone who has lived through a trauma. This is primarily how they learn to deal with it. They confront the memory. The memory is there. It's not denied, but you archive it in your mind and you put it away and you decide that that memory does not define you. So we're doing it every day we can do it here as well. We don't choose to forget the horrific things that happen to us, but we learn that these things don't define us. It's there, but the future is what's waiting for us. And that is what we move towards. That's where we want to go, is we want to go into the future. And, well, no sense in slowing yourself down with baggage. We probably should let that be the last word. We're at 9:40.
All right.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a good word.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, thank you.
you're welcome. So this is Krow.
This is Peter.
And
And this
this
has
has
been
been P&K
P&K
Q&A.
Q&A.
Salute.
Peace.